You're watching a classic episode of Bass Pro Shop's Outdoor World Television.
Most anglers avoid bass fishing on mornings when a cold front blows through. The combination of a dropping barometer, chilly air, and strong winds can make fishing tough. But for three-time Bass Angler of the Year, Kevin VanDam, mornings like these are ideal for one of his favorite lures, the spinnerbait. Spinnerbaits don't look much like anything that bass eat, but there's something about the flash and noise that the fish sometimes find irresistible, especially in the hands of an expert.
Every day you got to kind of figure out where they're going to be and what's going on, and today is just a perfect day for fishing spinnerbait. You got cloudy skies and we got a good wind, the lake's clear, and that's when conditions are at their very best. I mean, that's my ideal spinnerbait day, is a day just like today. Oh, he ate it too. That's a big one. Boy, today is just one of those days you just dream about. You know, last night I watched the Weather Channel and I saw the forecast. We're going to have some good wind and good cloud cover. This lake, the water is real clear. It's just the perfect day for throwing a spinnerbait. Everything is in my favor today. You know, we got wind that knocks down that light penetration, and this front that's passing through. The bass are going to be more active and chasing shad, and that's just all the right ingredients for throwing a spinnerbait. Oh, God, there he is. Right where he's supposed to be. Nice one. Got him on my little insurance hook right there. Something that's really critical to me when I'm fishing a spinnerbait is making sure that I've always got a trailer hook on there too. Especially in this clear water. I'm jerking that spinnerbait. There's one. Oh, they're on this windy bank. I'm jerking that spinnerbait and trying to make these fish react to it. So they're hitting it a lot of times without, you know, thinking that they're actually feeding. So they're just hitting it out of a reaction a lot of times. And it's so critical to have that trailer hook on there. And not only do you want to have it on there, but you want to have it on there like that so that it's free to move. And you notice I've got a red one right here. I am just head over heels on this bleeding bait concept in clear water situations like this. I mean, that hook and that wire and those little beads and things, they have a lot of flashes of red, and you know, that simulates to the bass, you know, a wounded bait fish. And it makes a ton of difference. I'm so confident in the bleeding bait concept that if the water's stained clear, I can't hardly throw any bait anymore that doesn't have red hooks. I've just seen it make that much difference. So that trailer hook, though, is an insurance policy that you always, I mean, they are on this bank here. Right out of that bush right there. They like it.
Cold front? What cold front? These bass are biting like it's a balmy morning in spring.
Perfect little spot there. Small one. He was so tight. Making that perfect cast is so important. Throw it up there and get it right on their nose without making a ripple or a splash. You're going to get an awful lot of them to bite. Just reacting to it. Don't give them time to think.
Kevin VanDam is fishing a windy, cold front morning, usually a tough time for bassing, but his spinnerbait tactics are really doing the job.
That was just perfect right there. I mean, in clear water especially, those bass sometimes will track it and they'll follow that bait for a little bit, and it's totally the presentation itself that triggers them to bite. One thing I never do with a spinnerbait is just cast it out and wind it in. If you fish it in clear water and you reel it fast, you're going to catch more bass. But one thing I always am doing is I'm jerking it, twitching it, fluttering it, you know, changing the speed of that bait, trying to make the blades kind of bang together a little bit, make the skirt flare. Anything like that triggers a reaction out of those fish. I want to make it look like there's something wrong with it. Make it look like it's an easy meal to the bass. And that's when you're going to get your strikes. I mean, right as I come up to a good log or lay down, I'm going to give it a quick little snap of the rod tip. I'm going to let it flutter for a split second. Not too long. Don't let it sink a foot or two. Just let it hesitate for a second. Change the rotation of the blades again. Make that skirt jump. That's what triggers those bass. It makes them just dart out there and go after it. Well, your equipment is so critical when you're throwing spinnerbaits. And what I mean by the equipment, I'm talking the total package. I mean your rod, reel, line, it all adds up to, you know, how efficient you're going to be and how good a spinnerbait fisherman you're going to eventually be. You got to have the right rod. That is the most important thing. And for me, when I'm throwing at cover like this and isolated targets, I like to have a rod that I can be real accurate with. But if I want to throw at say a bass blows up 40 yards away and I want to make a real long cast, I still want to have enough rod to do that. So I think a 6.5 foot medium heavy action rod is the perfect thing. You got to have something that has some flex in that tip. That's what gives you that soft presentation when I make that roll cast. You got to have a little bit of tip, but I want a lot of backbone through the midsection of the rod too. And that'll give me that good soft entry into the water. And the butt isn't too long, so as I'm making casts in tight like here, I can go right, left, and I can make that pinpoint precision cast and get that soft entry. For your reel, it's so critical too to have a high-speed reel. I fish a spinnerbait a lot of different speeds. I'm not always burning it real fast, but when you are, the high-speed reel makes a big difference. And then line, you want a good low stretch, heavy line. I start with 17-pound test line and go up from there. You're always fishing around cover like that. You know, a spinnerbait is the one lure in your tackle box that the action isn't affected by the size of your line. You want to use a heavier line. The only thing that the line size will do is affect how deep the bait runs. So I start with 17. I use Bass Pro's XPS monofilament. It's a real good, low stretch, high abrasion resistant line, and it's green. In this clear water, the fish can't see it. I'm moving the bait quick enough that they're not going to see it even if I was using a fluorescent line or even a clear line. But I like green. It's going to be invisible. It blends in with the grass and the cover, and it's real tough. If I get a bass in that gnarly stuff, I'm going to be able to get him out, and that's really important. Right against that grass edge.
The right gear and the right presentation in the right spots brings fast success.
Trailer hook. Always got to have it.
Even on a cold front morning.
Try that cast. Good spot.